Hello and welcome to What the Fiction, which is presented by What the Force. I'm Marie Claire Gould, and with me is Nat Fox.
Yeah, I'm Nat Fox, actually, an actual fox, also known as Ashes for Foxes on Twitter, and host of the Meta Machina podcast. If you haven't listened to that yet, please do.
And we are going to be covering the new K-drama that was just released this week and is being shown on, Korean television and also on Viki. It is called Tale of the Nine-Tailed.
Yes.
Yes.
Or Gumiho.
Kumio. It's kind of a K sound. And I guess the big warning about all of this is neither of us speak Korean. So we will be pronouncing things incorrectly. It's just going to be part of the enjoyment of the show. But we hope to bring you into some of the myths, try to translate some of the stuff that's going on in the show because it's very enjoyable. It's leaning heavily into monster romance, which we both enjoy. It was like they took all of the things that make up my good friend Nat Fox, put them into a blender, added like some sort of scientific, like, I don't know, like drops or something.
My brain waves. They actually extracted them and put them into a bell jar or something, and yeah, and the show fits every single thing that I've ever wanted, but with some exceptions. But it's what I needed right now in 2020.
Absolutely. And so we're gonna do a quick intro to the show, what it's all about, non-spoiler into the chapters first, just to get you set up and primed. And then, maybe if you haven't watched the show, you can take a look at the show itself. I believe it's free with like a minimal amount of advertising on Viki right now. So definitely check it out if you haven't already, and it'll give you a chance to understand what this show is all about. So we have a very special PowerPoint presentation that Nat has prepared, and it's amazing. So let's get over there to do that. I'm just pulling it up through the magic of the, I don't know, transitions. And there we go. It's available. So this is, again, the Tale of the Nine-Tailed. It is a special show. What is this all about, Nat?
So, if you don't follow any dramas in particular, we got word of this coming out, starting to film actually in April of this year. We had some pre-production stuff before that. Everybody was very excited. But, we didn't, as all K-dramas are, you don't really know what they're about until they air. So the first 2 episodes gave us some more context, especially with the opening animation. I've got some of the stills from that in this PowerPoint. Obviously, if you're listening to this as a podcast point, just go watch the opening of the show. It's quite easy, but it's a beautiful animated intro, and it gives you sort of a historical context for the character of Ri Yeon, who is a 1,000-year-old nine-tailed fox who is a guardian sort of between our world and the spirit world, or the world of the dead. He collects spirits that are upsetting the natural order, as you say, Marie Claire.
Yep.
And he's doing this as a bargain because he got the the soul of his first love to be reincarnated after she was brutally killed. And he's been waiting for her this entire time. We're all familiar with this trope of reincarnation and the monster entity waiting for her to be reborn.
Yeah, and something that we'll bring up later, I think when we do the flashback to the period of time, he feels, I believe, in his mind that he is blameless for what has happened in her, whatever happened to her, but I think that it's hinting at that he is not.
May be like the direct cause of her demise.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What is this show actually about?
Well, in addition to that, of course, he's found the girl that looks exactly like his dead reincarnated lover. She is a producer on a television show about urban legends, and she's been seeking him out because he saved her as a child. And what I put in this PowerPoint is what the show is really about is the K-drama screen caps
Yeah.
that we are lovingly looking at online every time there is an episode that's aired, because of the fact that it's just like most K-dramas, a very funny show, tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
Makes fun of itself, metatextual, makes fun of the fact that it exists within its own genre, referencing other shows that the actors have been in, or other shows people have expectations around.
Heavy goblin references all right off the bat. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we'll go into some of the other kind of references that are featured that other viewers have pointed out, not just us. But I would, if you are interested in the show and just kind of dipping your toes into it, please just go on Twitter and search the Tale of the Nine-Tailed Tag, and you'll find the funniest moments from the first 2 episodes. And there are plenty to look at.
Yes, there are. And I love that the little, like, of the ones you presented on here, I love that the little boy offered to be his friend.
Yes. Yeah. There is a moment where he gives advice unsolicited to a small child. And I think that is great.
Yes. But really, we're here for our 2 murder boys.
Yeah, let's just be real. Okay. Honestly, the thing that hooked me on this was the fact that Lee Dong was doing another drama, because the last one he did was Strangers from Hell, or Hell is Other People, which was a horror one, which I couldn't watch, but I've had friends watch it and appreciate it. So I've been waiting for him to do something of a romantic nature for quite some time, and he has come back just as much as Kim Bom has come back from his military service and also for a health break. So we are so happy to see these 2 boys, and especially these 2 boys across from each other, because their chemistry is on fire.
Yes, absolutely. And so we're also super invested in the chemistry between the romantic leads as well.
Yes.
Yeah. These were the pregame magazine shots that came out, I think, about a month ago, just to hype up the show. And what the hell is the bathtub shot?
Oh my god, yeah, the dazed photo shoot for this cast, specifically for Lee Dong-wook and Jo Bo, is really, really, just really good. And I would just suggest looking at all of them. I only included the one in the bathtub because that's very, it's just very nice. I look at it often. But also the second leads, we have a beautiful photo shoot with their best goth villain wear, and it just set up this whole expectation for me that even if they're not in the drama as much as the leads, I have plenty of material here to work with. So
absolutely, they have some really good moments. But overall, Kay, what does this show feel like? It has big Twilight vibes.
Extreme Twilight vibes. Yeah. So in September, a fan of Lee Dong-wook came out with a statement in Korean, and and somebody translated on Twitter. I'm happy to link that. But they said that if we have Twilight over here in the Western kind of hemisphere, they're going to have this. They're going to have the Foxy Fox man. So Yeah, it definitely has Twilight vibes, especially with like the red hair and the golden eyes, and the whole "I could kill you. I'm going to kill you," and she's
Yeah.
not. I'm not afraid of you.
And
You know,
also
I
like
want to know what you are.
she's like immune to his thing, like cuz
His power.
he tries several times to wake her memory and he's unable to do so, so he has to consistently deal with her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
People have brought up the Vampire Diaries because that is, you know, sort of in the post-Twilight era. It was a, you know, very long-running CW show. I watched quite a bit of it. But two brothers, right? So the two main guys in this are brothers, and they have this sibling rivalry around a woman who is actually, her ancestor was the one they were in love with. So there's this whole same face, same body, different person vibe going on with that as well.
Yep.
And I've gone ahead and included, of course, Goblin and also Hwag Yugi, which is a Korean odyssey, which is a very, very, very good K drama. It's a little bit sad. A lot of people were upset with the ending. If you have concerns about it, please feel free to DM me or ask me. I can clear that up. But I super, super enjoyed it. And it's a very similar premise. There's a young girl that can see ghosts. And when she's a child, she meets the Monkey King, who is a demon. And she ends up being sort of this target for him where he wants to eat her, but she tricks him into taking on this protection so that he can't eat her, but he has to protect her from other people other demons that want to. So it is extremely heavy in terms of the references to this. And it's really funny because the lead actor of that, the forget his name, but he is actually in two of the other dramas that are around Gumiho's in Korean dramas. So like The Family of Gu, and then My Girlfriend is a Gumiho. He was the lead in that as well. So there's kind of like this whole like almost homage going on here to his work, which is nice.
Also, like this is how I felt watching the first two episodes. It feels like they took Reaper Sunny's sub, you know, romantic plot line and said, okay,
Mm-hmm.
what if we just kind of made the drama about Reaper and Sunny, but like with this
Yeah.
supernatural element from the beginning? It really feels like, you know, he doesn't realize that he was the downfall of his love. It feels like
Mm-hmm.
that's the direction that they're going. And it's going to be a semi redemption story for him, like Reaper and Sunny in
I
Goblin.
agree exactly. Yeah, I think especially with like people have been posting screenshots of his character in the past in the historical parts of Goblin, crying versus his crying in episode 2, which we will get into in the spoiler heavy part of this episode. But it's so like we really just want to see him cry. He's a very good crier.
Yes, yes. But most importantly, what does this remind us of? It reminds us of Inuyasha.
Oh yeah. At the opening of episode 2, if you are a fan of anything Inuyasha, but especially Sesshomaru Ren, which I know might get me canceled in some circles, it's there. It's all there.
Yeah, yeah. It's like they decided to take the other side of the story and make it a thing.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know how else to put it. And then there's a grumpy, uh half human, although I'm not sure 100% if that's come out in the story yet, but that was part of the initial conversations that
Yeah,
spoiler
Li
that
Rong is supposed to be half human if production stuff is. Sorry, spoilers for everybody,
yeah.
but you kind of get the impression that he doesn't like humans because he's constantly messing with them. So
Yes, yeah. He
makes
becomes almost like this uh a devil like advocate person who is like, I'm gonna give you a deal, a deal with the devil. That is his role so far in the story. He tends to like they went out of their way to show how he basically manipulated a human into accepting a bad deal and
yeah.
then like killed off his family. So
Yeah, he's hardcore. And we love that here
yeah,
on Attic Cave.
exactly. He's not a good person. Um,
But that doesn't mean anything, really,
yeah.
That just makes him even more sexy. I'm sorry.
And then, so into our star power, we've covered this a little bit. Of course, Lee Dong Wook, or Wookie, as we will probably call him, because
Wookie.
that's his nickname. He was the Reaper in Goblin, the Great and Lonely God, and Kimbom, who most famously from Boys Over Flowers as the potter slash tea expert flower.
My favorite flower.
Like
Although
he
I never finished Boys Over Flowers, so I can't give credit to that. Sorry.
he finished military service and actually had some health related issues. He has, I believe, rheumatoid arthritis. Am I pronouncing that
Yeah.
correctly? Probably not. He's just like getting back into acting, much like Ali Minho was for the King. And we're
Hmm.
so glad to see him back. He has this like evil laughing boy gravitas about him that is just really entertaining.
He's just a phenomenal actor, and he just his expressions are so deep. Like he knows what he's doing, and it's very apparent. Um, Yeah, because he's playing multiple roles. He's a trickster essentially. So he's supposed to have this whole kind of fluidity to his character where you don't know if he'll change at any moment. Like we were talking before this, but my favorite moment from him for him is like when he's on the phone with his brother and he says he's just smiling into the phone and going, "I'll burn down your house." Like
Yeah.
that's just perfect intro to a character that's absolutely you just don't know what to expect from him, and I love that.
This is the first drama I've seen of Jo Boa, who is our
Mhm.
main. She's the producing director of Urban Legends show, um, and also looks exactly like uh, Wookiees slash Lee Young's dead girlfriend.
Uh-huh. I was just calling her the dead girlfriend because that's what his brother calls her.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a breakout star kind of in a certain sense, but actually been working for a long time in the industry. She was just lauded for Forest recently. She's been in quite a few other productions. I didn't include a lot of them. Um, but she's relatively young compared to these actors that are well into their 30s and you know
Yeah. And they definitely do put out that there is an age difference in there. It's very clear how old she was when accidents happened. It's been 21
Mhm.
years. He is kind of pretending to be a 36-year-old. So every which way, there's a problematic age difference.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
fine.
the more problematic, the better for me. So,
Yeah. And then honorable mention to Kim Young Ji, I think is how you pronounce her name.
mhm.
I loved her in both her roles in The King, both her and her other her, because
Yeah.
that show was super confusing a little bit, but enjoyable in the end for me personally.
Mhm.
If you want to check out our recaps of those, if you want to watch it on Netflix, it's all out there on the channel, so check those out if you haven't already. As we went through them, experiencing the ups and downs and confusion, it was a thing. It was a joyride.
Oh yeah, it was an absolute joyride, and I was really invested in the King Eternal Monarch, but it kind of lost steam for me halfway through the show. I'm hoping like this show fulfills that a little bit, but because I really wanted to see more of her character specifically. She's such a great actress, and she's got such good energy, and especially across a major actor like Kim Young Ji, not Kim Jong, sorry, Kim Bom.
Yep. And so let's go on to the relationship chart because this helps us understand a little
Yes.
bit about what's going on. Because
Yeah.
especially like watching dramas is a unique experience. It really is very dependent on the types of subs that you're getting, whether things are explained. Um, Lee Young calls the fox that he kills in the first episode his sister, but
Mhm.
yet we also know that Lee Rong is his brother. So is that like metaphorical brother, like hey, everybody's my brother, or
I think with
you
the sisters,
know?
it's like a folktale thing because there is a actual folktale called the Fox Sister, and so I think all of them are sisters in the greater family fox, the greater fox family sense. I would hope to be one myself, but.
We had a comment from Isabella that this chart is very handy, and yes, we always look for the relationship charts
Of
when.
course. And I'm sure there'll actually be more of them as the show goes on. They usually introduce characters midway. Who knows who will show up at that point? Although I think that they're keeping this cast pretty small just based in the post-COVID world
Yeah,
of production.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, this is what they released for the show. There is one hidden person who we don't know yet. I didn't actually translate that, so don't fight me on it. But my favorite thing is like both of the fox servants for the two main fox boys are master slave relationships. I really just like that a lot.
Yeah, and so everybody on the very left-hand side is a supernatural immortal fox.
Mm-hmm.
Gu Shiju is a veterinarian, publicly works with Namjia to give, consulting on anything related to animals. We don't really know much about Kuyuri yet, or Kiyuri.
Mm-hmm.
Pronouncing things terribly, of course.
It's okay.
We don't really know much about her other than one thing you were able to figure out about her.
Well, her subtitle on this chart is department store owner or director. So she actually directs a department store that shows up in episode 2. And I also found a fun fact in the translation of production information that she is actually a Russian fox, which kind of makes sense because she's got like these blue contacts in that I couldn't quite figure out why she had. And then we see her tail at some point. It's white.
Yeah.
And as you said, Korean foxes are red. So obviously she's foreign. And I just really like that. She's a Russian fox, and Russians did one of the first domestication projects for foxes. And it's not like the best thing ever because it started out in the 70s and 80s, I think. But they do have basically a breed of fox that is Russian that is domesticated. And so her character is really reflecting that. And as you can see, I've already found my side fave. Just like we found Reaper and Sunny, I'm over here standing my girl, Kiyuri, and I hope to see more of her. But
Absolutely. Yeah. And the relationships themselves are really interesting. Like Lee Young seems to treat his, baby fox that he's it's almost like a mentorship relationship, and he's there to like protect him and look out for him. And they talk about kind of like fox politics in a way. It's very interesting.
I love how Gushinju is like, I'm starting to feel more like a human, and he's like, you shouldn't be proud of that.
Yeah, yeah. It's like sometimes I forget whether I'm a fox or I'm a human. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some really cool stuff going on with those relationships, and we're looking forward to seeing those develop more. And then we have the missing dead parents. Not dead.
Yeah.
Not dead.
Spoilers.
Undead parents.
They exist somewhere. And a lot of fan theories right now are they're possibly of some kind of supernatural origin themselves, which might be interesting. But, her parents are featured briefly through the flashbacks, and they're very supportive and loving, and obviously just, we don't know anything about them right now, besides the fact that they are supporting and loving. And she really, really misses them to the point where she's willing to just throw herself off a building and trank a supernatural entity. So, yeah, she cares.
Yes.
My favorites, personally, right now are the Underworld Immigration Office deities, because I had to look all that up. We haven't really gotten into the mythological section of this, but obviously a lot of the influences not only come from Korean shamanism, but also from Buddhism and Confucianism and all these other isms that kind of came into Korea in later years, because Korean shamanism is very old. But these two gods in the immigration office are of a Buddhist nature, and they're related to sort of the version of the River of Styx, if you would like think of the Greek equivalent of it.
Yeah.
The crossing over that you have to do in order to go from, one world to another. It features heavily in Zhansha and Wuxia as well, if you're familiar with sea dramas. But of course is featured in this. And so these two gods of the underworld are responsible for, the collecting and the processing of spirits into the next life. And I really like the the goddess Talupa. I don't know if I'm pronouncing Talupa. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but
Yeah.
she's so cool. I just think she's so cute.
And she's the sister of the king of the underworld.
King Yoma, yeah, the
Yeah,
king of
which
hell.
the king of hell, which is a whole thing in the Korean gods pantheon, what role he plays, how he became the king of the underworld. He's responsible for judging people once, they go to hell. And in the second
Hmm.
episode, as part of your initiation into the afterlife, you have to watch a PowerPoint presentation.
I
So
thought that was great.
just
That's how
like now, you're experiencing what the characters who died experienced.
yeah, as somebody that actually will process you into the next life, because I live in hell, I'm presenting a PowerPoint for you right now.
It's absolutely beautiful. We're going to go a little bit more into the Snail's Bride when we get into the actual episode debriefs,
Hmm.
because her role is super interesting. I love her. I
I think she's
love
cool.
the lean into the mythology. Like Nat and I had a lot of fun in the last couple of days just reading up on all of these different things because we really didn't know what this show was going to throw us. Um,
Yeah, it's hard to prepare for something like this and then, to get the episodes, wait for them to be subbed, and then to be like, oh my God, this reference is so cool. So yeah, we were
yeah.
just sending links to each other, being like, learning more. Because, we have a cursory understanding of a lot of Asian cultures, East Asian cultures, mythologies, and religions, but, getting into the deep dives is what we're here for. So,
And seeing how respectfully it's handled, like I know it's their own culture and
mhm.
they're telling it to people who probably have the basic understanding of things like we do, which is like the tooth fairy and like that's the equivalent folklore, etc. um Most people are probably aware of some of these things, but to actually see it like handled, and it's exactly how it's like done out there when you actually do the research into that. That's kind of cool because we're getting a good understanding of it too as we're going on it.
Yeah.
um do you want to talk a little bit about what the Snail's Bride is right now, or do we want to go into it in a little bit?
Let's go into it a little bit. We'll probably
Okay.
just we'll transfer into that with the mythology because there is so much mythology. But I wanted to start us out with understanding what a nine-tailed fox is because that is my favorite animal or
Just a brief
creature.
shout out
So,
to the Urban Legends show production team. There's some stuff going on with them, but we don't know what yet. So
oh yeah,
that's the
oh
last
yeah.
thing on this slide. All right, nine-tailed foxes. Let's go into that because it's a really, really good, I don't know, intro into something that is used in many cultures across
I
Asia.
think like nine-tailed foxes are having sort of their
Come back.
redemptive comeback
Yeah.
moment. A comeback in the K-pop sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Except it's been thousands of
Don't
years.
call it a comeback. Yeah.
So, if you're not familiar with us, we've talked a lot about nine-tailed foxes, at least on Twitter and also sort of in general, because of the fact that they are just a really interesting mythological creature that's shared across many East Asian cultures, whether it be Japan, China, Vietnam has their own version, Korea has their own version. It's a very pervasive mythology, and they have different kind of aspects or moralities. The Korean version tends to actually be more evil than most of the other kind of morally ambiguous versions. There are some versions in Chinese mythology that are actually almost sort of propagandized. Like Daji is a famous example of a nine-tailed fox that you'll see. And I was talking to you, Marie Claire, about Investiture of the Gods. It's coming out, that movie.
Yeah.
That includes Daji, but Daji is from a mythology written during a period very much like how Dante wrote Dante's Inferno, basing it on real life and people around him. Where you had this sort of like rewriting of how this person is. You're making them into a fox seductress because they ruined an empire by the emperor falling in love with them. This is kind of like how foxes have been, shoo-ins for these seductresses types throughout history and in multiple cultures. And, they're not bad animals. They're cute. And, I think people appreciate the fact that they're adorable and want to see more adorable versions of them. So especially in like Korean dramas in the past 5 years or so, they've come out with more dramas that sort of make the Gumiho be more relatable and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But in this one, it's good because they have both versions, right? You have your super, well, not super cute, That's just Chinese dramas for sure.
Yeah.
Super cute. But they have the cute version of the fox, Leon, and then they have the truly evil, manipulative, laughing at people's pain, the Yang, or like the foxes that ended up, killing her parents. So
Yes, those foxes. And if you had any question about that, those were foxes, because they were, we have some hints of that when, we go into kind of what we're seeing from the mythology and the traits that we're seeing.
Yeah, we should say, like, in the first episode, the name of the location of obviously is where the event happens, where her parents die or at least disappear, is Fox Hill, and so that's where the foxes live.
Yeah, and a lot of mysterious horror type things happen on Fox Hill, or Fox, where Fox Ridge is also the name, and confusingly they use like a wolf howl when foxes are attacking, which is not actually true. For
They did at least, like, they sound like dogs dying in like the scene where he comes in and cleans up. But yeah, that's not what a fox sounds like. We've talked about this.
We don't want to get into the song,
like? No,
but they sound what was your description on Twitter? An old woman dying?
A middle-aged woman dying, because I was speaking to myself.
Oh, okay, just like you. Yeah.
No.
They do not sound interesting. Like, they sound kind of annoying and weird.
They have a very
squeaky.
yippy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you did it perfectly.
I did.
That's what it sounds like.
Because I'm a middle-aged woman dying. But so some of the traits that we're seeing, especially accentuated in this show, they mate for life. That's been mentioned. They must return any favors that's owed to them. So it's so built into Leong's character that he refuses to compliment people on their food. He's like, it was adequate when he eats at the Snail's Bride restaurant, because he doesn't want to owe her for giving him an exceptional meal.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? He doesn't want to owe the ice cream maker for giving him an extra scoop of ice cream.
Yeah, he's like, give me the exact amount every time and don't expect anything. I don't want any favors to have to repay them. It's a spell that's on them. Like, so it was like the Geas or whatever.
Geas, yeah.
Yeah, where you have this whole contractual obligation to fulfill a duty in return.
Yep. They're super, super loyal until you've betrayed them, and then you're dead to them.
Scorpio trait right there.
Yeah. All the smell kink in the world.
I'm sorry I put ABO in your point.
It's fine. But I just recently discovered that I'm really into this, so I like this trope. It's cool. He can smell her. He knew right away it was her, right, when he ran into her again. Things like that. Other than that, she looks exactly like his dead girlfriend. Incredibly beautiful and seductive, right? But
you skipped over the very dumb part.
Oh, I know. I was going to get to that.
No,
they're always kind of dumb.
Yeah, they're dorks. They're kind of just. It's not like they're stupid because they're actually quite smart. It's just that they. What is it, Marie Claire? What is it about foxes that make them incredibly, like, just dumb?
I just think that they're, like, not plugged into social cues as much.
Yeah, the low EQ.
Yeah.
Probably, right.
Yeah. Like, if you think about how they're represented in, say, Eternal Love or 3 Miles of Peach Blossoms, 3 Lives, 3 Worlds, 3 Miles of Peach Blossoms, they're kind of just, like, slow on the pickup when it comes to interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
Because once they find that person that they're fully committed to, that's it for them for life.
Yeah, they actually mate for life. They make a selection, a choice, and then they never leave. And it's kind of cute, but it's also sort of like there is some downfalls for it. And I'm glad that you brought up 3 miles of Peach.
That was me. I'm sorry.
Butchering it.
Yeah, Eternal Love is the drama. You can check it out on Netflix or on Viki. It's amazing.
Okay, yeah.
And then Eternal Love of Dream, which is also about a 9-tailed fox, which is Nat's personal favorite, everything. So
Yeah, I know. I can't get on a podcast or a stream without mentioning it. But yeah, so like both of these stories revolve around the family of nine-tailed foxes. And they are, those traits show up. And I think it's funny that they're kind of like crossover, but they were extremely popular dramas. Specifically, Eternal Love or 3 Miles of Peach Blossoms was.
yeah, I think it's at 5 million or 5 billion views
The most viewed
globally.
of all time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So incredibly, viewed, and it's about a nine-tailed fox. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And you just see them in everything now. Like I included a couple other references. We just saw Zihu in Love and Redemption that had the same qualities, extremely loyal to almost to the death, lived 1,000 years, cultivated. Um, then, I've got Qing Yao from Love and Destiny, which is another good shansha. If you want to get into shansha, that's completely different, of course, than K-dramas. But I do think that there is sort of a cross-cultural reference going on here, and that we're seeing the comeback again of nine-tailed foxes.
Somebody had mentioned, is it the movie that was on Prime, Amazon Prime, and it's the same story, but
Oh yeah, the movie is really great. It actually has Liu Yufei from the new Mulan movie, who of course that movie sucks, but watch the actual the it's called Once Upon a Time is the English translation of the movie version of 10 Miles of Peach Blossoms. It also has Yang Yang as Ye Hua, which is Yang Yang is like amazing Chinese actor, and he will be playing a really pivotal role in a C-drama that's coming out called You Are My Glory, which is a esports drama that I'm going to make Marie Claire watch. So anyway, I'm just
You're
streaming here.
Priming up my.
It's got Dila Riva, it's got my nine-tailed fox.
Okay.
So come full circle.
Okay. Yes, this all came in. We see tails come out when people are excited, but only we only really see that with younger foxes.
Baby foxes,
which is why we kind of think that maybe Li Rong's girl fox that he hangs out with is young.
Yuri, yeah, she's definitely she's a baby. She's asking all of this direction from him, and he's telling her how to be, and she's sort of like, I'll pay all this money to watch these people suffer. So
it seems
I
like
love that
they get a lot of joy out of people suffering, which is the last point on here, that it only seems to be something that evil foxes do, because we haven't seen Li Young do that. So
no.
Yeah. Into the other myths that we're seeing, we talked a tiny amount about animism. So, things that have lived long enough, like trees or flowers or animals, become something that can shapeshift, have enough power, can live forever.
Yeah, and in like traditional Korean mythology, like a goblin, a dobaki, will come from an inanimate object that's like left too long, like an umbrella or a sword or something stained with human blood too. So that's why his sword, he is basically a goblin because of that. But animism, of course, is a general term to describe that, the rocks or trees or mountains become spirits over time by cultivating. It's very common idea across different cultures. You mostly are familiar with it through Shinto, like in Japanese terms, but also, of course, in Korean shamanism, which is completely separate, I should add. Yeah, like they have that concept is baked into the culture and into the story, and it goes along with the idea of cultivation, right? You've seen that in C-dramas, but also it exists in K-dramas too. If you spend enough time, you kind of transform into a greater, more spiritual version of yourself. So
it's about perfecting yourself through meditation or through acts of valor. Sometimes that counts to helping others. I like cultivation as a mythological mechanism a lot. So it's entirely my jam. And whenever I'm watching, fantastical Asian dramas, it really, really plugs in well with my framework of living. So I really enjoy how it goes about from a mythological perspective. So let's briefly talk about the Snail's Bride, because I think that a lot of people had questions about this and what it is. There's actually an image of it on the left-hand side down at the bottom. It's effectively, it's sort of a folklore tale of giving people things without the expectation of gratitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's a bit of a cautionary tale. There's actually 2 different endings that are publicly, it's kind of like Little Mermaid, how in one version of Little Mermaid she turns into sea foam, and in future versions of Little Mermaid she ends up marrying the prince. There's kind of those 2 versions, as there's a cautionary tale version where she ends up disappearing because he comes and sort of demands the relationship before it's time. But in a too long didn't read version, a man wishes for a bride to share all of his rice with, and a small voice says, "I could be your bride," and it's a snail that has transformed into a woman who makes him food without him knowing. So little, shoemakers or cobbler in the elves type situation, like, so he's not aware. He sneaks back, finds her, and is like, "Oh my gosh, you're amazing," before she tells him that it's time, because he kind of had to go through this trial period of 3 days. It's confusing. Is it 3 days, 3 months, or 3 years? 3 days is a little bit of a weird number. It's like
it's very common in fairy tales.
Yeah, it's kind of like an unknown amount of time, and he broke that, and so she ends up disappearing effectively.
It's an animal bride story, which is very common. Like you think about Selkies and other stories, they're always about the man not being able to respect the rules of the spiritual environment, and that the cultivation that you said, like, that they come from. Like, in order for me to be your bride, you must follow these rules. And the men never follow the rules, and the woman always has to go off on her own. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, and in the like in the hey happily ever after version, he ends up making a sacrifice to bring her back, kind of from her road of trials that she is on when she is taken away. So that's how it ends up resolving from a mythical perspective, which is both she and him, like both of them, have ended up making an emotional / physical sacrifice to love, thus becoming that alchemical union or dyad, and ended up getting married. That is literally Joseph Campbellian ending.
It's also this, like, the Swan Princess and all these other stories about animal brides, like, that's very similar, like, you're right. Like, it's baked into that, not just the hero's journey kind of situation, as much as it is baked into that earlier myth of monstrous spouses, right? Women and men's tend to be a little bit different. Women's are always about that redemption that the man has to go through in order to earn back his right to be that, to have that spouse, because he's been gifted it. He must earn it. And respect, not only her own autonomy, but the fact that she usually has children that they share, that they have to take over.
That gift of life is an important responsibility. That's kind of what is being said. So we noticed that one of the senior production directors in the Urban Legends office is really interested in the Snail's Bride, but we don't know what that means. And so Nat and I are all speculative. We're like, wait a second. So,
I'm here for secondary ships that are older people, because I just love older people finding love. That's all I can say. And if the Snail's Bride can find love after having to make food for this unsupportive fox for so long, he won't even compliment her on her cooking. I'm sure it's amazing.
Yep. The brief in the first episode, Jang Sung. Oh, sorry, I was way off on that one.
So in the first episode, she is saved from an accident by a drunken person who she has to carry. And as she carries him, he gets heavier and heavier. This is a very common folklore thing,
Yep.
that if you carry the older person in need of aid, they become heavier and heavier. It becomes more and more of a burden until you're able to reach that destination. And by reaching that destination and going through that trial, you are gifted with your life. Usually it's not
Yep.
just, I'm going to get wealth. It's like, I saved you from certain doom and you owe me now, even though you carried my weight. So that's exactly what happens in this scenario. She comes into this, into this sort of village communal space with this tree and this totem.
And there's a bottle of alcohol at the bottom of the totem.
Exactly. Somebody left that for him.
Yeah.
Somebody's been feeding him, and he has a scar across his eye, just the way that the totem has a scar. So it's like the real world effects of destroying these monuments reflect upon the bodies, or the spiritual bodies of these creatures, you know?
Yep, absolutely. And then we had the Shanshin, Sanshin, who's the mountain god, which was Li Yong at some point. The god of the mountain. That? Did I lose you? Oh no. Oh, momentarily.
Paralyzed, lost my sight, my soul in its darkest night. What have I done? I fell slowly from.
There we go. Oh, and we're back. We don't know what happened there. A little bit of internet issues.
Zoom definitely dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I am so sorry. It's my internet. I'm out here in rural Arkansas. But I was saying that, that the opening to episode 2 has, we were like, why is there a tiger there?
Yeah. And I looked it up, and it's a reference to kind of almost saying once upon a time. It's when the tiger god smoked a pipe. That's how like ancient legends like once upon a time would start, is when the tiger god smoked a pipe. That's
yes,
literally,
yeah. And all
once upon a time.
Yes, and also all the depictions of mountain gods are very similar throughout Korean history. They'll have a pine tree and they'll have a tiger. And the tiger is very important to Korean mythology. The tigers are no longer in Korea anymore, obviously, but they do represent sort of power and royalty and, submission to the mountain god, who is protector of the country, because mountain gods are extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And there's always the mountain god's bride in those pictures too, which is really cool because there is a bride in those openings. So,
there is actually a mountain god bride. Yes.
I'm so happy.
And we have the Bulgasari, who is the nightmare eater.
Can I talk about that one for a second?
Yes, of course. This is a second episode myth that came up, which was really, really cool.
Yeah, it's just like, why was he eating coins, right? So they eat iron. That's their kind of like main thing. But if you look at the Bulgasari, it is the same exact monster as a Baku in Japanese. And also, I don't know the Chinese version, but they are based off of Malaysian tapirs. So when they appear in art, they look like sort of like mini elephants, or they look like anteaters. They come and suck up your dreams. It's a really cool mythological creature, but in this, it's just a guy, security guard, that happens to be like, can I buy your dream?
Yeah, can I buy your dream? Yeah.
I want to play the lottery.
Yep, exactly. And then the last is sort of ghosts, and we haven't really seen they've referenced ghosts, but ghosts are quite common. Like if you go and watch kind of
I just finished Oh My Ghost.
Oh My Ghost, yeah.
Yeah.
There's tons of K-dramas that deal with ghosts.
Especially virgin ghosts. Apparently, dying
Yes.
before you are able to fulfill your familial duty through Confucianism is a point of problem, and that's why you stay behind. I also want to recommend Oh My Ghost in terms of explaining Korean shamanism. Korean shamanism is very prevalent in a lot of the dramas that we watch now. It has kind of had a resurgence in the last 20 years or so, because there were active efforts by the government to shut down superstition, per se. So you will see more shamanism in stuff, but there's different versions of shamanism, right? You have your diviners that people go to get lucky fortunes for, like, is my son going to get married? Who's going to get married to? And then you also have actual shamanic families, like in Oh My Ghost, the main shamanic family. So although she's not a practicing shaman, she can see ghosts or spirits because of it. So yeah, fascinating stuff, which we don't have the time to go over here, but I would really recommend looking into, because it is a very, very old religion.
And it seems like we're going to have more mythological things that are going to be pulled in to the story almost every episode. So we'll have lots to talk about, which is really cool.
Yeah. So we will see ghosts, and especially since they referenced in the second episode, the water ghost, which is a very important one. I mean, a lot of dramas and films have referenced the water ghost.
Yes. And we're about to get one potentially. So, cautionary warnings for Asian dramas, tropes, cliches, and quirks. You created a bingo card. I didn't actually think
I didn't create when I found one online, because it's that pervasive.
Yes. Okay. So, okay, let's start this out. We've already noticed some massive editing kind of issues. It's hard enough to watch K-dramas when you're dealing with subtitles that are either fan subs or, even Google Translate subs sometimes. Sometimes things won't translate, and then you're also dealing with the fact that these things are done under tight budgets. This was filmed during COVID. So they had probably even tighter restrictions on what they could and could not do. And some of that might be confusing. We're going to try and walk you through what we think is happening.
Yeah.
to help to clarify kind of anything that might be missing, especially the mythic stuff, because the mythic stuff is leaning into affecting the plot. So if you're like, what was that weird drunk dude? Why was he there? Well, we can explain that and hopefully fill in the gaps. We'll do the research for you. We'll make it easy, etc. But it is sometimes there's going to be script, budget, I don't know, editing issues.
Yeah. Editing especially, because I want to talk a little bit about how...
Oh no, did we lose Nat again? That's my question. Did we lose Nat again? I could just talk here for a minute. Let's see here.
These dramas.
You're cutting in and out. Are you
Am I
back?
here now?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Yes. Welcome
I'm
back.
so sorry. Yeah, it's always going to happen on stream. It's a guarantee.
Yes.
Yeah. So
start again with your warning.
These dramas are filmed in a very chaotic way. They're like filmed very quickly, and also while the show is airing, typically, to do rewrites, re-edits, and as well written as they might be through the first script read, they are going to film a lot of stuff improvisationally, and then either leave it on the cutting room floor or include it, and it becomes sort of a nightmare to parse out, because they are filming a lot of stuff for outside of the show, whether it be filler, promotional materials, clip
Yeah. Promotional materials. They also deal with some of the
Cliffhangers.
yeah. Nat, I can hear you again. I blame Nat's internet completely. But no, we deal with a lot of overall issues from a drama perspective. We saw some of those come up when we were all watching together for The King. It seems like they had a lot more planned and then ended up needing to cut it down. And that's actually something that we kind of see a lot of in dramas. Also, we're also seeing some editing specific issues in episode 2 where things are very, very, very confusing from a perspective of motivation, maybe. And it's like maybe an entire scene got cut explaining what Leong's motivation was for what he was doing. And we're unsure of what that means exactly. All right. We are without Nat. That is where we are. And it's just me now. So I'm going to go into the next slide, which is what are some cliches that we're going to start seeing or coming up with in the K-dramas? We're going to see definite product placement. We've already seen a few. We're going to see some sort of gratuitous shower scene, probably a wrist grab. Nat specifically will suffer from second lead syndrome.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. It's going to happen.
There's going to be some sort of accident, which we haven't seen one yet, but or no, we saw the bus.
There's
and
a car
we also
accident
saw the car.
and a bus accident.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Expect always that a woman will walk into traffic and have to be saved by the male lead. And it's always a white truck. That is the trope in K-dramas, the white truck. You see the white truck coming, just like you saw in Goblin. Shit's going to go down. Sorry. I swore.
Okay. It's fine. It's fine. There's going to be tons of meta references. We've already gotten Goblin references. We've gotten cameos from other projects. One bed, forced living arrangements. We already have that in the first episode or in the second episode. There is only one bed, but they still managed to keep apart. They got to go to Jeju Island, which we will go into that in the second episode. We're going to just briefly talk about each episode, just high level. Because we've talked a lot about the myth stuff, which was really awesome. Cliffhangers in every goddamn episode, because it's kind of like they film the entire episode as, hey, this is what the mystery is. But they put that mystery at the end of the last episode just to keep you coming back for more.
Remember to always watch the closing credits. Always. And then I'll give you next week's stuff.
And then lens flares, Matrix style rotating cameras. Common. Do you want to talk about the supernatural stuff?
Yeah. So we were just so excited. Remember, like you said, like the romance, the monster romance is like baked into this whole thing. So if you haven't experienced supernatural romance as a genre, especially in K-dramas or C-dramas, or actually pretty much any Asian drama, there's multiple tropes that are going to come up every single time. Age gap is my favorite. That's why I watch it.
You're here for this.
I am absolutely here for this in a very problematic way, and I'm happy to be called out. I don't give a shit. Yeah. So my favorite other thing about that is reincarnation. So it's always, he's lived a very long time. He's never, ever, ever pursued another woman over these thousands of years. It's because he's waiting for his first love, or he's waiting for the right one. I know in Goblin, he's waiting for his bride. But in this one, he's waiting for his reincarnated first love. And that's his main goal. Just like the main female lead's goal is to find her parents. Love interest meets the female lead as a child, and then she grows up. This is a very common one, almost just baked in to the genre.
Yeah, people just kind of assume it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it happens in non-supernatural genre too. So if you look at stuff like What's Wrong with Secretary Kim or other
They
modern...
knew each other as kids. And
Yeah, they know each other as kids.
They knew each other as kids. It's a big trope. Yeah.
Yeah. So the supernatural romance genre would not be a monster husband relationship unless he threatened to kill her or eat her at some point. And I think this is valid.
Happened twice, 3 times so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also he just looked at her and said, I have found somebody that I want to kill right now. And that was very sexy of him, if I might say.
We also love that she got him back.
Yes, she did.
Which we'll get into that in episode 1, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Also, it feels like fate.
It is fate.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. Why else would they meet over and over again in this time period? And she calls it out. And he says, we should just call it fate.
Yeah. There's something special about her, which wasn't on your list, but it is a big thing in these dramas. She is special in some ways, not like the other girls in a way, but like a non sequitur that she is his particular type of X, right?
Yeah, she can overcome his power. She's immune to it. She is. So interestingly enough, from a mythological perspective, the Korean Gumiho has the fox bead, and they deliver it to another person through kissing. So it's very nice to be able to have that kind of like, all dramas involving nine-tailed foxes are going to involve you kissing them to give them your spiritual bead. Yeah, which happens obviously.
Which has a bit of their power and, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, their life force or essence, basically, which ties them to you. But in general, like she's going to have some sort of power that she's not familiar with yet, because some of the myths around foxes are that they'll bargain with you to give you spiritual greatness, but you won't be able to experience it fully. And I feel like she will probably end up being able to either see the spirits or ghosts. She already kind of has, in a way.
She might be immune to his power because she already has the fox speed. He just can't pull it back until he kisses her.
Oh, Marie Claire, you just unlocked a theory that I would love to follow.
We'll get a grumpy male lead. They're always grumpy.
Always reluctant, always antagonistic, never quite sure what they're doing. They have to fumble into love.
Yeah. He has to save her from the monster of the week.
Which is, it's just, as much as people they're always upset because when you have this sort of power difference between a supernatural creature that's thousands of years old compared to this female lead that's human and fragile or whatever. And I honestly don't think that the female lead in this is fragile in any sense. She's a fighter. She's been waiting for this person to kill her entire life, to the point that she had this whole plotted out situation where she ended up getting him in the situation where she could stick a needle in his neck and he was surprised. I think that's honorable and amazing. And I think I honestly applaud that chaotic suicidal nature. It's cool.
It's like she's already pushed all the way to the edge.
Yeah.
We love these umbrellas that are also swords.
Yeah, and I have to like, call out like umbrellas as sort of a paranormal thing because of the fact that like the female lead of a Korean Odyssey has an umbrella that she uses to ward off ghosts. And so it becomes this sort of thing. But also in Goblin, he has an umbrella and there's a rain scene with it. I don't know. It's great. It's just their umbrellas are great. And they're also if you leave them too long neglected, they become demons. So or goblins specifically. So just be careful. Don't leave your umbrella unused.
And then super fast cut fight scenes. So it's like lots of cutting, lots of editing to make it seem like it's really fast, like a Michael Bay movie.
Twilight.
Or Twilight, like the fight scenes in this felt very Twilight, like the zoom and then they're struggling and then zoom and then they're struggling. Yeah, there was a lot of that.
My favorite was like her camera that she had in her house running at all times, and she caught them fighting, and it's just these two guys just zipping around a room, just pushing each other.
Yeah, it's like nobody would believe that was real anyways.
No, nobody would.
But she's like, I'm gonna call this bluff. And then CGI until the budget falls off, which we have seen happen in shows that were
so
premiering.
Many times.
That,
just be prepared for it.
Yeah, just be prepared that like at some point the CGI gets very rushed and bad. But we accept and love these shows for their good things and their bad things.
Yeah, it's always like creating art within limitations. And I think about that a lot when it comes to sort of like people that are producing content on the fly, like us streaming, or people that are writing fan fiction and they have a time limit. Like you have to accept that there will be quirks to the genre itself. And complaining about them is sort of, I don't know, it just feels empty to me because I'm more interested in what they're able to pull off.
Yeah. And is the story good? Is the romance good? Are the mythical things that they're pulling in, do they mean something to the story? Does it add to the plot? Absolutely. So I've just closed down the PowerPoint now in case you wanted to know if you were on screen, and now our ears are back.
Ears are back.
Ears are back. And so let's dig into episode 1 overview. What did you think of this as the introduction to the show?
Personally, I thought that it was very Korean drama.
Yeah.
And you can back me up on this. I have been getting into this genre a lot more in the past 6 months than I have previously, because you know me, I was very hooked on C-dramas for a long time. And C-dramas, as opposed to Korean dramas, are like 59, 60, 70 episodes long.
Yeah.
And it's just funny because what I'm watching now from watching modern C-dramas is that they're adopting everything about K-dramas because they've learned that it is a more accessible medium. It has more staying power in terms of like popularity because people drop off long-term C-dramas. And it's just, so a lot of C-dramas now are 24 episodes. One of the modern ones I'm watching right now has every single Korean drama trope possible. In fact, they're behind the scenes. They are speaking in Korean, because they're just kind of like playing up with the producers of the show who are Korean, who they've imported in to make a show in China that is a Korean drama. So you find that like, this is the way.
That makes sense because a couple of years ago, the Chinese government actually blocked all Korean dramas from being imported from Korea. So I think that there was a gap, and then producers were like, there's a gap. And so what we're getting a lot more is C-dramas that are semi K-drama in length. So they're like max 30 episodes and they're 45 minutes long. Whereas these ones are going to be 110, over an hour long, sometimes an hour and a half long. And they're going to be only 16 of them. That is the
always
format.
16 episodes.
16 episodes.
Always 16 episodes. You can always rely on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the episode time does vary a little bit depending on what they're willing to cut.
Yeah.
So, but there's always the truly cinematic feel to a K-drama, right? Like there's this like essence of this is almost like watching a movie every week, 2 movies in a row even.
Yeah.
And what you fixate or gravitate towards is up to you, but they do put a lot of ins and self-references, especially in the first episode. And that's what I kind of like, I was expecting it, but I was also just like, yeah, that's my boy. That's my boy. Shower scene right off the bat. Yeah.
Shower scene, Reaper reference from Goblin, like, yeah. We felt very much at home already. I was surprised at how dark it started out. I don't know why. But it really felt like the Neil Gaiman story Coraline, or the movie.
It was Coraline, yeah.
Yeah.
The first intro for her character. I was watching it on my phone actually when it was like partially subbed, and I was just like, oh, we're going here, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because you had like, I am your mother. Like,
yeah.
And the foxes, you get this impression that they are almost terrifying in that sense. Like you're drawing into this like urban fantasy, but cultural mythology horror. Yeah. And the horror thing is like Koreans have done horror so well over the past 10 years, in a way that like has gone past what we can talk about in this podcast. But leaning into that vibe is really important for this drama, because although it is a romantic kind of story, it is also essentially a supernatural horror story. So,
yeah, and it has that, what I like to consider a good balance between this like romance / lightheartedness with the ice cream and the jokes and the and then the horror aspect. Other shows that did this really, really well was like Strong Girl Bong Soon, with the kidnapper murderer mixed, mystery mixed with the lighthearted nature of Bong Soon, who was very, very funny and cutesy and things like that, right?
Yeah, and as we know, right, every drama opens up with a lot of comedy, and then as you move towards that middle point,
yes,
that's when the angst begins.
And it's already like super freaking angsty.
I cried at the opening to episode 2, and we'll talk about that after this. But
another major theme that's pulled out in the first episode, as we're like, kind of dissecting it a little bit more, that we both noticed, was that it's really making a meta commentary on a disconnection from the mythical. So like, what is the proper place of the spirits and the spiritual shamanism and the kind of true natural order of things in Korea and in the world. And it's making a commentary that things have separated because of modern times.
Yeah, I think that when you try to take these like fantastical elements and put them into a modern culture, especially with the modern C drama or K drama environment, it's always going to be like a question of, what has capitalism done? How has it destroyed our environment and our sort of our sense of nature, like our sense of place too. It's just like how foxes were endangered in Korea because of the fact, or almost extinct actually, because of the fact that they were hunted for their fur, but also because of urbanization. So you have this whole idea that the mythology of a land is leaving, or because nobody respects the locality of these gods and their placement within this pantheon. Like, they're so tied to the nature of an area that its exploitation ends up becoming a problem, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying to find their place in this new world. And I brought up American Gods with you in like our outside conversations because of the fact that, like, even though it's not the same thing, it's sort of similar in like a commentary on how we are able to bring our mythologies back into a place that is foreign to them, right?
Yeah. And it's also like a commentary on, what is the place of all of these things that still continue to exist in the modern world, but maybe you're not paying attention to them, and yet they're still affecting you. And
Yeah.
This is playing into the idea that they're trying to show us that these things are real. And part of that is, in the first episode, they mention a couple of things that are literally things that have happened, like the reintegration of foxes in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
That was a massive thing. And all of the things that the veterinarian baby fox mentions actually do happen. The reintegration of the foxes, they traveled into Seoul for a little while and they ended up going past into the demilitarized zone into North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that all happened. I found all the news articles for that. And then, so it's a little bit like, how like the Da Vinci Code is like half real, and kind of like how he talks about in the second episode, the dreams are like half real, the nightmares are half real, just enough to convince you. It's kind of like what they're doing in the show in a really, really interesting way. And actually, here, I'm just going to pull up this video. The other thing that was mentioned was the boars going into the convenience store, and it's literally what happened in like an outskirts of Seoul. Was the boars literally came, it was two wild boars, and they came in and they knocked over a bunch of like potted plants and scared the hell out of the patrons.
And that made its way into the show because of like the cultural feminology of being so distanced from nature. Like, I traveled to Japan when I was in high school, and while it was beautiful, I was struck by the idea that there is not a lot, to really relate to nature-wise. You go to forests, but they're very well populated and very trafficked. And so, like, nature coming in and back and, invading your territory is cool. But also, like, it's also, like you said, a metaphor for these mythological creatures trying to survive in a space that is no longer their own.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it is saying something about the story, and we're going to have to just pay attention to this, the spirituality and these myths that you assume were just myths are actually real, and what does that mean to the characters that are now interacting with the world, like our main character, who is trying to understand her place in this world.
Yeah, and I love that the whole foundation for that is that she automatically understands and believes in them. There's no, he's like, you should be screaming right now. She's like, nope, I've known you've existed since I was a little girl, so I'm just dealing with you. I've been looking for you for my whole life. And
also like a massive Twilight parallel to say, like, oh, you're good with weird, cool, Because
I mean, that's a kind of a like we've talked about, like the YA or the femgaze kind of version of that. It's just like, yeah, we want to be acknowledged for not being stupid and not being able to handle crises in a, like, we're not going to be going screaming, running in the other direction. We're just going to be like, yeah, no, okay, if I die, okay, I can deal with that.
Yeah, but hey, it's my choice that I'm throwing myself off this building at the end.
Yeah,
and I know how you're going to react. So
it's a safe place.
What did you think of Leong's introduction? Like, he's definitely in some sort of version of purgatory with his what did she say? She's like, maybe we should go to a 5-day work week.
Yeah, maybe we should. Like, I don't really buy that he's all about his 600 years of military service, which are his own choice, by the way. He signed that contract, and I love the imagery of him trying to blow out the foxfire in her hand.
Yeah,
I love ghost fire, by the way. It's like one of my favorite imageries. But so he has obviously fallen into a rut where he cannot recognize the beauty around him or in front of him. He's in constant search for this perfect soul that contains his fox speed. He's unable to recognize his significant other that's been reincarnated multiple times over this.
Yeah, it looks like she was always reincarnated, but I think the kiss will reveal the fox speed. I really think that was like my brain flash when I was watching. I was like, well, The
I'm so
kiss
proud
gave it to her.
I'm doing this with you because you have the insight that I didn't even think about, which is good. I'm not saying I would have thought about it because I'm not that smart, but I'm going to be gravitating towards that theory in general. And it works with K-drama tropes too, because it's like, yeah, like the biggest thing about, like, think about Oh My Ghost. The whole point for the first 12 episodes was, are they going to have sex or not because she's a virgin ghost? So it's like that in K-dramas and CW. Are they going to kiss? Are they going to kiss? It's a magic kiss, like you said. Like, it's the kiss that reveals that their true love is awakened from death, like Sleeping Beauty or Snow White. This is totally on brand.
And like, with that, there's always like the, hey, now I remember all of these past lives and what I've gone through, and I remember the true sin that happened. And
then that true sin happens. That's when the rejection happens, because he needs to experience rejection from her. That is going to be like the beautiful point, really.
Yes, he thinks that he has done his penance by living for 600 years under military service, i.e. for no.
Chilling, boy.
He needs to be rejected, and it's something I like to nickname the woman in exile. She literally is like, I'm done with you, I'm gone. And so we'll
all the
see
foxes
that.
do it.
Yeah,
all the fox wives, husbands do it too.
Yeah, it's like we'll probably expect to see it like maybe 3/4 of the way through the show. That's usually when it's timed. So again, that other things to look forward to.
Love confession at halfway, always.
Yes.
Around the 8-episode mark.
Yes.
It's going to be full too. It's good.
Yes. Some of the things like that we're speculating, or anything else about this episode that was like particularly awesome. I kind of want to talk about the end a little bit because it took us totally by surprise. Both of us were like, what the hell?
We can joke about it because I was like, this is so stupid. But that was my first reaction. But then I was like, this is so stupid in the way that exactly I like, and I don't care. Drama rules are that if it looks cool, you don't have to really think into it too much. Yes, I would throw myself off a building for a lead on look. I don't care if you think that's a bad idea. Or if it, and I think for me, like, reading some of the criticism around Jiboa's character is also sort of interesting, because like it happened a little bit with the King Eternal Monarch as well. Like, we tend to take a stance, especially as as viewers of like femgaze content, that is specifically made for us, especially where you have a male lead that is so kind of bright and shining. Lee Min-ho was such a great example of that, where you kind of ignore the female lead to a certain degree, or think that she might not be as good or as smart or as good of an actor, even like this is the stuff that I'm reading on like the commentary, because I go not only to Reddit, it's like Facebook, and to YouTube and other places, Twitter, to find people's ideas. And I really honestly respect her as a person. And I don't think she's fully developed yet. And I'm excited to see how fully developed she becomes, because she's still stuck in childhood, right?
Yeah.
Like you said,
she's stuck by the memory of her parents and what she has to, trying to find them.
21 years in limbo.
Yeah.
This is what gravitated me towards Rey as a character. As I'm not mentioning Star Wars, but you get the idea. Yeah. Like the spiritual stagnation and fixation is a perfect foundation in order to become in a more wholly realized emotional self. And while she has like a serious relationship with her coworkers and stuff like that, she ignored the death of her coworker's parent in order to pursue a lead. She's not really emotionally there, and I would like to see her come into that. And anyway, I'm reading way too into it. But...
No. And it's quite common. Like, this is something that we see a lot in K-dramas, but also in femgaze stories, that the lead character is in a place of being stuck. And actually both of them are stuck in a way, right? Like, so the lead male, lead female are stuck somehow. And they haven't been able to progress past some sort of point in themselves to become a fully realized human or fox. And for her, yes, it's absolutely, the death of her parents, and she's fixated on it and she needs to move past it somehow. But for him, he literally hates love in as much as that he loves her. Like, because he keeps on telling other people around him, like, screw love. It sucks.
He's like, if I could go back, I would stop her from ever seeing me in this moment when she's a child and patting his head.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just like, for me, it was just like, that's somebody that's really been burnt. Like, he doesn't even really want to find her, I think. It's almost like a mission or a goal that you do when you're not like suiciding, but like you're trying to kind of prove how much that meant to you in that moment. He doesn't have a sense of eternity yet. Goblin, you had the sense of eternity because he was going to die when,
when she found him and pulled out the sword. Yeah.
And then there's like 8 episodes where he was dealing with that. So
yeah,
we can expect a similar thing from this, but also not, because I think the pacing in the show is really good. But I do like what you said. Like he hasn't confronted his history, and this is obviously just 2 episodes, so we'll probably get more of that in the 3 and 4. But it'll be
I
huge.
absolutely think, and this is leading into episode 2, but I absolutely think that we will find out that he was responsible for her death.
Mm-hmm.
I have like no doubt.
100%. Yeah.
I do think that a lot of people online suspect that her parents have some sort of magical connection. There's a Korean legend about an abandoned child because her parents wanted to have a boy. That's kind of interesting. Like, so why was originally in the past, and second episode again, why is she special? Why did she exist in the first place to tempt the mountain god?
You think that like because she pretty much inserted herself into his world about the same time.
We don't know anything about that backstory at all.
No, and we also know that it happened around the time that Li Rong was born, because Li Rong is 600 years old, as old as the service that he's been doing.
And so she could be, like, her original self could be related to Li Rong. I mean, there's things that could exist, right? She could be his little half sister.
Oh my god.
I don't know. You said this might be really quiet, wild and crazy. I was like, how wild and crazy could it be?
You know dramas.
Mm-hmm.
This is the hidden sibling or the hidden child.
Yeah.
On the bingo card. That makes sense then.
Yeah. And then she's like reborn, but like she was the human side and he was, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's their tie. Like that's what makes them a triangle, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of missing information, and it's going to continue, especially because they obviously had a lot of cuts that were in the intro to episode 2 that were like, oh, you're watching a music video version of a longer story. Congratulations. Here's some information. But like, the whole holding her ears to like kind of, I think it was to stop herself from crying, but I'm not sure. And then, the different outfits, him teaching her archery, the water, there's all these moments that could be used, or they could just be discarded, like tears in the rain. I don't know.
Yeah. So just to clarify, I'm saying that the half human brother is potentially related to, as a speculation, is potentially related to the long dead girlfriend.
I believe it.
Yes. And
I also believe
half human brother is related to older fox god. That's all I was saying.
Descendant.
Yeah.
And they will probably have some sort of chemistry.
God. I don't want to. Why am I
just
like
get
this?
used to it. It's okay.
It's fine.
It's supposed to make you feel icky because,
Yeah. He likes her. It's weird.
He does. He likes her from her head to her feet, or whatever.
No, he wants to eat her.
Oh,
Oh, I don't get attached. Yeah, I don't get too attached to theories.
We don't get attached to theories. Thank you so much for reminding us.
Yeah, in general, we have no idea where this is going.
Oh, we don't like theories because it's like you don't have to answer to them week to week either. It's mostly just like, okay, what do you really want to see, Marie Claire? What do you really want to see?
I want Lee Rong to be a planner.
Yes,
like to be a super planner, because like he planned to show up to fight Leong on the bus.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool.
He wasn't actually there though.
Did he replace her in the hospital?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I watched it again today because when I first watched it, I did not get that.
Yeah.
But
so
you see Yuri's heels coming up to the, and then you think that she had a nightmare or something, but it's actually like that's when she's replaced, because in the hospital, that's the character knowing that she's going to die.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she was eaten. So was she just a normal girl before?
She was half Gumiho. She had the one eye.
Oh, right. She had the one eye.
The one thing that's not explained by poor editing is what happened on the bus, because we really don't know. We don't know at all. Like, he confronted her, and I think he let her go.
Right.
Which is pretty normal for him. He was trying to do it with the bride in the wedding.
Yeah, he tried to let her run away, and she didn't.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, "Don't get married, go and run away." And
so
she's like, "No,
it's fun because the Gumihos, like, they can be revealed by removing their clothing. That's one of the things. So hopefully that comes up beyond just like the bridal dress coming off.
Yeah. Before we get too far into the show, are we going to see him with his 9 tails out?
I hope so. That's the only reason I'm in here for it.
Are we going to see him in fox form?
Oh my god. I can't think. I just can't. I really want to see it. Show me the boy.
Show me the
child.
Show me the child. Show me my good fox boy. And then lastly, we brought it up before, but are her parents magical?
They have some kind of spiritual thing going on that's not very well talked about or articulated. But they had an only child. They traveled into this space and gave her present in the car. It's like almost like they were on a way to meet somebody. I don't know. It's a good setup, and it could just be dropped K-drama style, but
yeah.
Into
episode 2. What did you think of episode 2, other than it was confusing as hell and felt like 3 different episodes? Which was how I felt.
That's a really valid concern there. And what I really loved about it was that the opening felt to me like a Jansha.
Oh, and it was beautiful, and it looked like a painting.
Oh. It was literally like they took that whole imagery of the mountain god and the tiger, and they made it into this thing. And I know it's not fulfilling from a romantic aspect, because you have like this storyline that doesn't make any sense. It hasn't a clarity. There's no background. There's no wonderful interaction between the characters. And also when she's on that boat, when he comes to save her, it's almost like the dead can't speak in this world. Like, she doesn't say anything to him. He just kisses her in a very careful way to give her that fox speed. But I think it was a good setup, a premise for the relationship, and maybe from his perspective, to the point where I felt like seriously invested in this world. How like I've gone, like, my favorite characters are these like supernatural gods that have lived thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, and they've never really experienced true love, which sometimes is just, who's going to make dinner tonight, or let's have a relationship.
Let's share a vat of mint chocolate ice cream.
Exactly. So you got me. Like, I legitimately cried, and I think the music really helps with that. I think actually the soundtrack for this is amazing.
I absolutely loved the intro kind of again, it felt like a painting for I Waited for You, because, you know, he had been hit by the, you know,
How did she get him up to his apartment?
she works out.
She works out. She carries guardian gods.
Lots of camera equipment, and she does CrossFit. Thanks for asking. No, she carries him up to his apartment, and he has this like daydream of his past, which again is like, you know, I think stylistically is to say this wasn't actually what happened, but it's what he remembers after 600 years. And, you know, again, the tiger being next to him at the start is to tell us this is a long, long time ago. Once upon a time. It's telling us this is the legend, you know, and then we go into them having their deal that is struck, which is, I will destroy these if you help me find my parents. And he's like, damn it, now I owe you. She kind of gets him in that deal, which is cool.
Yeah, you know, I think that's I didn't appreciate that conversation on first watch, but in second watch, what I really liked about it was sort of like, it goes into sort of like the folklore, devil's bargain, almost like in Labyrinth, where she has to parse out these like fairy creatures, like, you know, riddle work. I loved that, and I liked how he just got up at the end of the conversation. It's like, no, I'm taking your eye. You've already given it to me, but she wins by saying, you owe me a favor now. Yeah. And it's just such a good subversion on that. And
the foxes are playing by that like fairy type.
They are fairies,
rules. Yeah. Like because they're spirits, and they're obliged to do favors or to and the evil version of that is what Li Rong is doing, which is you know, making deals with the devil, and then it's like the monkey's paw. It doesn't turn out exactly the way that you want it, which we see the full version of in the second episode. And I would say that the editing was really rough in this episode because it was hard to follow certain plot lines and certain understandings of what, like, why are they at a funeral enjoying misery? Oh, it's because he had this thing, but they flash back to it in that moment. And then I was very confused when the PD's coworker, so her coworker had her family die, but
her mom died.
Her mom died, but then there was that secondary death that happened on the island mysteriously. Urban legends sent her to go and investigate. It's like, wait, I was confused because I was like, were those things like? No, I was like,
it feels like cross signals, but the way that I've started to think about it is the way that these episodes are cut are almost cinematic,
right?
And like they're cut cinematically in a way that doesn't make sense very like, and like it almost requires rewatch.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that's good because I fucking hate that. It's just my language. I think there's one good example of a movie that's edited so poorly that rewatching it is necessary, but I'm not going to do it. So, you get my point. Like the cinematic cut is just, it doesn't work, but in emotional investment, especially as a drama watcher, because you're used to having a thorough line on a lot of the scenes, right? You're used to somebody being like, I'm going to go upstairs with this person, and then we're going to go into this room and we're going to talk here. We might go talk and then one person leaves and another person shows up, but very much like a play or a situation, it's going to follow a certain logic. And because it's a cinematic cut, it's sort of like, okay, we're here with these other people, and then we're going to go here with these other people. And it's just like, it's hard to sustain emotional investment, and it requires more of you. And again, rewatches, like I got more on my second rewatch than I did.
Absolutely.
The first one.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, so they go through kind of three different phases, which is the intro phase and dealing with the bargain. The middle phase, which was the, what is the supernatural world and what is this dream eater? And the dream eater is partially reality, and it's showing you partial truth. So you should probably listen to it, even though you should be careful. You know, he recommends that you don't listen to it because it's like, you should just go and live your life. Get out of my way, woman. But you know, it is partial reality. And she discovers that with the painting or with the picture of her parents on Jeju Island.
Mm-hmm.
But let's call out the pansexual elephant in the room ever so briefly. He goes to the afterlife immigration office.
He brings coffee over to ask if his dead girlfriend has been reincarnated.
Because he suspects.
Considering the person with her face is just, forcing him to do things in a good way.
Yeah.
And
I love the PowerPoint presentation, by the way. Like
you just died in this bus accident that happened in last episode. Welcome to hell.
By the way, you're going to be judged. I hope you were good people.
Yeah. Don't be afraid. It's okay. Everybody's judged in the end.
See, she's like the sister of the king of the underworld. And is she scared? Oh, I'm scared of her, but
I mean, he brings her lipstick and he picked it up on the way. I think he is actually afraid of her, or at least trying to bargain with her, which is nice.
Yes. Absolutely.
Anyway, I love that conversation because she's like, it'll change your destiny again. It's sort of like in Goblin where it's like, you can't know what's going to happen. You cannot see it. Like spiritually, you are displaced from this situation because it involves you, You're not going to be able to deal with it.
I mean, his destiny is to like continue to try to maintain the natural order of life and death right now. So maybe she's worried
even that because he's so hung up on trying to find her that he doesn't recognize what's in front of him. But he does kind of like he's starting to lean into it, but he's terrified of the concept.
And then so they fight the nightmare eater, the Bulgasari, who eats metal and iron, and so that's why she throws the coins, which was very cool. And there's something about this show where the people need to fly through windows.
No, it's just I think they just had like we have to make the fight look cool. We have limited space and we can't do this outside because it's COVID. So let's just make some windows to break through.
Yeah. Smashable windows, and so people go through a lot of windows in this show so far. I think it's 1 per every episode or 2 per every episode.
We had to do our count like we did with the king and what was it, Maximus?
Maximin, yeah. I don't know.
People have brought that up in the chat, and I just want to thank everybody for remembering Maximus because we still hold him in our hearts dearly. I don't think we miss him. Time.
We miss our good boy. And then the third part of the episode is let's go to the island. So she's planning on going on her own, and then mysteriously he's on the boat and he has decided to go to the island. Did you understand why he was going to the island other than just to follow her? Which kind of plays out at the end. He's like,
really hard to understand, but if you rewatch the episode, when the daughter of the fisherman that died, whose head was found, she's basically following the cop car saying, I want to see my father's face. And it's a skull, but it's in there. She falls on the ground on her knees and she's picked up by her hand by Lirang. And so Lirang is on the island and he came to visit, but because there's no exposition shot where he goes from Korea mainland to the island, it's really impossible for you to know whether he's on the shores of Korea or if he's on an island. So it's a very difficult thing because then they establish after that they're on an island, and then your brain is like, oh, okay, they're on an island. But before that, you're just like, oh, it's just Korea, so it's just It really is not well edited in that sense. And again, editing is one of the major complexes of Korean dramas where they will expect you to figure it out in post.
Okay, so bad half-brother is on the island. Okay, yeah. I get it now. I did not. I watched it twice and I didn't see that, so...
Yeah. And he's on the island, and it is very evidenced by the end of episode 2, where there are murders happening on the island, the quote-unquote haunted house, which again, I haven't actually watched all the way through, so I haven't quite gotten there. I'm sure I'll figure out more from my second watch, which is like one of our people in our chat, Isabella, said, I had to watch The King, the Monarch,
three times to
in order to understand it.
Yeah.
And it's great. I actually really love that, because I'm one of those people that's got a hyperfixation complex and I'll rewatch everything over and over again. I've done that with Eternal Love of Dream, Eternal Love, all these other things. But like, for people that are just getting into Korean dramas, it's gonna be difficult. And I apologize that we are bringing you into this world cold. Kind of cold.
I mean, with The King, like, things were explained mostly later on. Mostly. Occasionally there was like a what? But we are getting there. I think that some important new adds to the mythology that we're seeing in the story, and this is like a meta commentary. We're gonna get some sort of version of a water ghost, I suspect, which is a big thing.
A water ghost or a mermaid?
Yeah,
Claire.
one of the two, because it's an island.
Do you think the person at the end of the episode is actually her?
No, because she was alone for a little while without him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think she's possessed.
No.
So we'll find out on Wednesday after the subs are done.
Exactly. I'm not doing that speculative week to week, oh my God, theory time. Here's an hour of us telling you what you should think, and then it's completely wrong. No, I just wanted to know. Like, I have the suspicion that it's not her. So, because the herbs and the snake skin and whatever the hell that was going on.
Whatever they airbrushed onto her skin to show that she was turning evil. But that was a ball pin like hammer.
Mm-hmm.
That would have broken like her shoulder when he hit her.
That's why it's probably a fae or whatever I don't know what we can call like the spirits or demons or because they're all different. We should have a name for them.
They're kind of spirits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll do some more research into what they're actually called.
Can we close off with talking about the tree spirit, the chief?
Yes, that is a really good place to close off and talk about the meta textual nature of this show and some of the things that probably won't be brought up, even though they probably should be. But go ahead.
Thank you. I'll try to be brief about this and not too politically divisive or controversial. But the setting for the end of episode 2 is Jeju Island. And Jeju Island features heavily in all K-dramas because it is sort of a tourist destination. In the actual drama, diegetically, it is not Jeju Island. It is just an island. I don't think they actually name it, right? Like, it's just a place you can walk around, caves, fisherman village.
Yeah. I think they mentioned it once.
I still have to finish my rewatch, so I apologize if that's the case. It is absolutely not Jeju Island, though.
Yeah, it's but where they're filming is Jeju Island, which is a former volcanic island, much like Hawaii.
Tallest mountain, Hallasan, in Korea, is on Jeju Island.
Yeah,
but it's
it's a mysterious island that they go and visit, and it has a forest. And Lee Young points out that same island, same forest, same girl. Like, there's something weird about this, and threes are bad. So he's got bad feeling. He's got bad
vibes.
Jeju about
vibes.
it.
Bad vibes.
Bad Jeju.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
No, but the island itself, like the meta commentary of the tide tree is, much of Korea has been influenced by China, by Japan during occupation, and they're not going to like directly bring up kind of these past things.
Mm-mm.
So, but that's what's being said, is that this spirit.
This is my theory. goes a little bit into the occupation of Jeju Island and also of other islands in sort of South Korea territory. And again, I'm not very historically minded here. I don't have a full cultural historical background. I'm just drawing my inferences based on what I know about religious adherence through this period. And during Japanese occupation, a lot of Koreans were forced into what is called state Shintoism, where you would support the emperor through Shinto. So the ties around the tree are very familiar to people that watch anime or like are into Japanese culture. Like I studied Japanese for 4 years, no Japanese. That is a Shinto thing where you basically protect and bind the spirit of the tree that you were, and also you do that with rocks, right? You've seen the rocks on the shores of Japan with the ropes tied between them with the papers. So I think that what they're trying to say with the tree, the tree mountain spirit, and I'll put the tree mountain spirit because it's on a mountain, it's a tree, is that it was tied down during that time period, and then she had to let it free because she was a human. The spirits couldn't do that for themselves. And if you want the same kind of vibes, just watch Princess Mononoke or any other of the commentary on sort of, like I said, the ecological destruction of these places, the non-consideration for the nature, environment, everything. Jeju Island's been going through this whole thing around the fact that tourism has caused massive amounts of pollution and destruction of the natural environment, because you don't just have people coming from Korea, you have people coming from, China, not as much anymore because of the bans, but all around the world. So, just consider again that this is not just necessarily a commentary on, modernism, but also on sort of like, and it isn't done in like a specifically great way, but it is cool to look into the cultural context for some of these things, similarly to any other show that you would watch on our TV, where we're referencing sort of the political and environmental framework of our existence. So anyway.
There is one last theme I do want to bring up, which is the Snail's Bride as a theme. So that idea that you will do something for somebody else without them knowing that you're going to do that. And several times Lee Young does things in this episode for her, now that he's kind of assumed the role of reluctant protector of her. He gathers the wild ginseng and he gives her his blanket in the where they're staying at in that one lady's room. And so it's really interesting to see that the Snail's Bride, just being introduced as a mythology, has turned into a theme.
I do think that's really cool, actually.
Yeah.
My brain is so shot. So yeah, he's a giver. Yeah. He will be a giver. And that's the whole point. Like, he's been waiting 600 years to give back, I think.
Yeah.
Because you already showed him sort of being, he is the animal bride in this situation, and his marriage was too soon. The rules were broken, or by other people, usually an external factor.
And so they both need to go through a trial to prove that they are ready.
So what's interesting is, like you said, like, if this were a traditional story within the framework that we've understood from Nine-Tailed Foxes, the most important thing for her is to remember her past lives. Not just the ones she went through recently, but her original one, which is going to be fun. Because like you said, she will probably reject him once she finds out what he messed up. And so they're kind of feeding into that with the ending of episode 2. I don't think that is actually what's happening. If it does, that's cool. But like, over the period of course of the drama, you can expect that that's going to happen.
Absolutely.
And he's gonna suffer, and we're gonna see him cry, and it's gonna be amazing.
And then there's gonna be
kisses.
All right.
If there's an accidental kiss in episode 3 or 4, I'm just gonna have to call that out as just
what?
I'm so sorry, everybody. You're watching a K-drama. Somebody's gonna fall into somebody.
Yeah, no, there's I mean, sometime next week, because that'll be 3 or 4. Yeah. These things follow a pattern
Formulas
and a formula, and they work really well. And so even though it's in different clothing, it does its own thing. Yeah. Well, Nat, this was the tale of the 9 tails.
Did it work out okay for our first episode?
I mean, we had like technological problems, lost you.
It was my fault, yeah.
Momentarily, I badly butchered all about K-dramas, but it's fine. These things happen.
Like I said, I'm happy to edit. Like I'm here for you. So
yeah. Well, thank you for doing this with me. I know this was built. This is like your some sort of super serum. Like built
I think
for
it's
you.
our super serum. We're fox ants here. Like we both
we are.
The same
we're
foxes.
Nonas.
We're the Nunas. Where is
old
my
ants?
man?
Although
Opa.
yeah, we're
Where's my Opa?
Opa.
No, I do not want to call a man Opa. That's just disgusting. No. Anyway, I'm so thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I know that I rambled a lot, but I also think that it's important for us to just kind of get into some of the deeper things around this, because it does take a lot of work. Like I want to like give credit to you for being really like ready to be like, okay, we're going to spend, 6 to 8 hours of our week looking at references, and I'm trying to unpack and understand
because there was a lot more. We didn't actually cover all of the mythology that
Nothing
was in there,
close to it,
but we wanted to cover the main things that we think are affecting the plot. That was most important to us. And we're going to continue to do this. We're going to have one weekend where we're not going to stream. Just as a heads up, it's going to be
it's my birthday weekend.
It's her birthday weekend, and it's also Halloween, so we're just gonna skip that weekend and do 4 episodes the week after. But we'll vary the amount of stream time that we take to do this depending on how much we have to talk about. But we're looking forward to this. This is exactly our type of cheesy, like amazing and yet also very odd K-drama that we're into.
It's my dumb bitch content. I'm gonna call it that.
yeah, exactly. So thank you for joining us. Thank you to all of the chat who joined us.
Joining us in stream.
And
appreciate it.
Just following along and willing to dive headlong, ears first, into this drama. And thank you again. And Nat, where can people find you if they're looking for you online again?
Of course, I'm Ashes for Foxes on Twitter, but I also host the podcast Meta Machina, META, we cover genre fiction from the femme gaze. And so we talk about everything from sci-fi to fantasy to Asian dramas. Marie Claire is on our episode about Meteor Garden. And I know, I'm just really proud of our project because I think that there needs to be more talking about this kind of stuff. And Marie Claire has been nice enough to include me in her own. So thank you so much.
And I'm Marie Claire Gould. I am the host of this, as well as the owner and executive editor of What the Force, which is a Star Wars podcast and now a bigger, broader site that we talk about Star Wars and anything that relates to mythical media. So that is what we are doing from a brand perspective, and we're really, really excited to take on new projects and talk about more story that really jives with what I'm all about. So that's what is going on. All right, everybody, have a good rest of your weekend, and cheers.
Thanks for joining us.